It's the tallest residential building in the Western Hemisphere. Apartments inside sold for $95 million. The buyers were billionaires. The promise was perfection. Today, they're suing to get out. 2 separate lawsuits, over $400 million in claimed damages, 15,000 reported defects inside a single building, flooding, stuck elevators, cracks running through the concrete like spider webs. One resident said using the trash chute sounded, and I quote, like a bomb. This isn't a story about a building that's falling down. It's a story about a building that should never have gone up in the first place, and the billionaires who paid the highest price in real estate history to be trapped inside it. Let's go back to 2011. New York City is in the middle of a real estate gold rush. A new breed of skyscraper is being built. Super tall, super thin, and aimed at one specific buyer, the global billionaire who wants a view nobody else has. They call it Billionaires Row, a stretch of Manhattan just south of Central Park, where the world's wealthiest people park their fortunes in concrete and glass, and the crown jewel of this row was about to be 432 Park Avenue. Designed by the legendary architect Raphael Vignoli, developed by CIM Group and Harry Macklowe, two of the biggest names in American real estate. The pitch was simple. Pay anywhere from $1 million to $95 million, and you would own a piece of the sky. That was the promise. This is what they actually got. When 432 opened in 2015, the apartment sold faster than the developers could process the wire transfers. Russian oligarchs, Saudi royals, tech billionaires, hedge fund kings. The cheapest unit cost more than $7 million, and even those sold out. Then, almost immediately, the residents started noticing things. First the cracks, then the doors that wouldn't close, then the electrical breakers tripping for no reason, then the elevators. Imagine paying $85 million for an apartment in the sky and being stuck for an hour and a half between floors 56 and 57. Now, imagine it happening over and over and over again. According to the residents' own legal filing, quote, elevator disruptions have been particularly pervasive. All areas of the building, including the retail area, garage, and commercial space, have experienced and continue to experience malfunctions and shutdowns. But the elevators were just the beginning, because the building had a deeper problem, one that started at the very top and worked its way down, water pouring in through cracks in the facade. According to the 2025 lawsuit, the tower's white concrete exterior is, and these are the actual words from the legal complaint, plagued with thousands of severe cracks, spalling, and other forms of deterioration. With nearly 1,900 facade cracks, 1,500 construction defects in the common areas alone. By the time the second lawsuit was filed in 2025, that number had climbed to over 15,000. And here's where it gets worse, because the residents claim the developers knew. They knew the whole time. According to the Condo Board's lawsuit, the developers, CIM Group, and Macklowe Properties ignored warnings, not once, repeatedly, over years. The complaint alleges that engineering consultants warned the developers about the concrete mix. The architect, the late Raphael Vignoli, warned about it. Mock-up tests showed it would crack. The lawsuit claims the developers, quote, bowled forward with, quote, complete disregard for the inevitable problems it would cause for the building and its future residents. But here's the part that turns this from a construction lawsuit into something much darker. The Condo Board doesn't just allege defects, they allege fraud. Massive, deliberate fraud. The 2025 lawsuit alleges that the developers conceal the building's defects from buyers who were spending tens of millions of dollars each in order to, quote, secure massive profits while leaving the residents holding the bag. It got so bad that Nikki Field, one of New York's top luxury real estate brokers, who works for Sotheby's, has publicly said she avoids even showing 432 Park to potential buyers. The reputation damage is now part of the lawsuit. The residents claim the bad press has cratered the value of their own apartments. Which brings us to the part nobody talks about. The reason this video is called what it is. Because these residents, the billionaires, the oligarchs, the hedge fund kings, they're not trapped because they can't physically leave. They're trapped because they can't sell. Apartments in 432 Park have lost up to half their value since the lawsuits became public. Some units have sat on the market for years. One penthouse that was bought for $95 million is now listed for under half of that, and there are no buyers. These are some of the wealthiest people on earth. They can afford anything, except apparently a way out of the building they paid more for than most people will earn in 1,000 lifetimes. One resident reportedly moved out for 19 months during a global pandemic because the noise and vibration in his apartment were so severe. 19 months. In an apartment he still legally owned, in a building he could no longer live in and could not sell. And here's the question nobody at the top of the New York real estate world wants you to ask. If this happened at 432 Park, the flagship of Billionaires Row, designed by a legendary architect, built by two of the biggest developers in America, what's happening at the others? Because 432 Park wasn't built differently, it was built the same way. Same engineering principles, same race to the sky, same developers cutting the same corners to chase the same global billionaire buyers. And every single one of these buildings is barely a decade old. The super tall era only started in 2014. What we're watching at 432 Park isn't an isolated lawsuit. It might be the first crack in something much bigger. A generation of buildings, billions of dollars of real estate that may not survive their first 30 years. The board of 432 Park is asking for over $400 million in combined damages. The developers deny most of the allegations. The case is ongoing, and the residents, the ones who paid the highest prices in the history of American real estate, are still inside, waiting, watching the cracks spread. But there is one detail buried inside the court filings that I think tells you everything you need to know about how the developers thought about this building. When the cracks first started appearing, engineers recommended applying an elastomeric coating. That is a thick protective paint specifically designed to seal and waterproof concrete. Harry Macklowe, according to the lawsuit, rejected that recommendation. He did not want to ruin the building's clean, white aesthetic. Instead, he allegedly proposed using a clear silicone finish, the same kind of finish used to protect his personal yacht. Let that sit with you for a second. A $2 billion skyscraper, a quarter of a mile tall, holding hundreds of human lives, and the proposed solution to keep the rain out was a product made for a billionaire's boat. That is the allegation in writing in a court filing in the state of New York, and the consequences were exactly what those engineers warned about. In November of 2018, a major pipe burst high inside the tower. According to reporting from the New York Times, the leak, quote, propelled water into elevator shafts, shutting them down for weeks. The damage was so undeniable, so visible inside the building, that a buyer who was about to close on a $46.25 million apartment took one look at what was happening and walked away from the deal. Imagine that for a moment. You are about to spend $46 million on a single apartment. You walk into the building one day to do a final inspection, and there is water pouring out of the walls. That actually happened inside 432 Park Avenue to a real buyer. But here's where this story takes its final, almost unbelievable turn. Because the developers are no longer just fighting the residents, they are now also fighting each other. According to reporting from The Real Deal in late 2024, Harry Macklowe attempted to remove himself from the residents' lawsuit entirely. He filed a motion for summary judgment, hoping a judge would dismiss the case before it ever went to trial. The judge denied him. Macklowe was forced to stay in the fight. Meanwhile, in a completely separate dispute, Macklowe has accused his own co-developer, CM Group, of swindling him out of $110 million in distributions from the building's profits. CM has even tried to foreclose on Macklowe's personal apartments inside 432 Park itself. The man who built the building cannot afford to keep the apartments he kept for himself inside of it. 3 years of litigation, 4 million pages of court documents. The case has not even gone to a full trial yet. This is not a real estate dispute anymore. It has become one of the most expensive, most dramatic legal collapses in New York real estate history, and it is still unfolding. And here's the question that nobody at the top of New York real estate wants you to ask. If this happened at 432 Park, the flagship of Billionaires Row, designed by a legendary architect, built by two of the most powerful developers in America, what is happening inside the others? Because 432 Park was not built using some experimental, untested method. It was built the same way. Same engineering principles, same race to the sky, same global billionaire buyers, same playbook. Every single one of these super tall towers is less than 15 years old. The super tall era only really began in 2014, and what we are watching unfold at 432 Park may not be an isolated lawsuit. It may be the very first crack in something much, much bigger. A generation of buildings, tens of billions of dollars of real estate that may not survive their first 30 years. The board of 432 Park is asking for over $400 million in combined damages. The developers deny most of the allegations. The case continues, and the residents, the ones who paid the highest prices in the history of American real estate, are still inside the tower, still listening to it whistle in the wind, still watching the cracks spread. This is just one building. There are dozens more across America with stories just like this one. On the next Falling Scrapers, the San Francisco Tower that has been sinking 3 inches a year since the day it opened. Hit subscribe so you do not miss it. This is Falling Scrapers.